Hello, and welcome to another edition of Tutorial Tuesday. This will be a part 2 of the Google Sheets tutorial. I'd like to briefly go over some tools and tips of things that are frequently used and can hopefully save you a lot of time. Let's start by going to your browser of choice. In the address bar, I'm going to go to sheets.google.com and hit enter. The first tool I'd like to go over is Autofill. I'm going to go ahead and open my Tutorial Tuesday file that I created last time. And at the bottom, select the Names worksheet. Autofill will automatically fill in a series of numbers, letters, or dates that you select. The only prerequisite is that you have at least 2 in that series filled in to get it started. Let's try with the months of the year. I'm going to click into blank cell C1. And type in January, as well as February. I need to highlight both of these. The easiest way to do that is to select January and click and drag over into February. Now you'll see this blue box appear in the bottom right corner. Whenever you hover over it and get the crosshair, not the hand, but the crosshair, you may click and drag over to do the autofill. And you can go as far as you'd like. With the months, it obviously cycles to the next year. Now let's try this with a series of numbers. Let's assume that the budget for Dorothy for the month of January is $100, and it's going to increase by $10 every month. Since you have to have at least 2 to start your series, I'll go ahead and fill in February. And now you can see that whenever you select both of these cells and you drag on the blue box over, it will increase by $10 every month. You can also do this for multiple rows at a time. It can also be different values. I'll give this person a budget of $200, and it will increase by $50 every month. And this person will start with $200 as well, but it'll increase by $100 every month. I will now select both the rows that I want over at least 2 columns, and again drag over, and you can see that it follows the series separately for each row. If you were to click on each of these cells that you dragged over to, you will notice that there is no formula, it is just simply a number. Now let's try with dates, dragging down instead of over to the side. Here's an example of how to do autofill with a formula. I'll take out the rest of these months and I will do a total for everybody's budget. Went ahead and filled in some numbers for these people for the months of January and February. Going to do the same thing that we did before. Drag over. Now in the total, I want this to equal the sum of cells C2 through K2. As you can tell, it already suggested that for me, so let's go ahead and click on that and hit enter. And I want the same thing for the rest of the people underneath. So in the formula that it says C2 through K2, this will follow that pattern for everybody else. For this, since it's not a series, it's just the formula being copied down, you don't have to have two with just this one selected. Get the crosshair and drag down. If I were to look at the formula for another one, instead of being C2 through K2, it is now C10 through K10 to correlate with this row. Now I'd like to go over the paste special function. When I go back to the budget worksheet, I'm going to take the numbers from column C, highlight them, right click and hit copy. Go back to my names worksheet where we were just working. Right click in this cell. And I now have the paste special options. If you choose paste values only, it will list the exact values of what were listed on the other worksheet. However, if I were to do paste formula only, we then get errors because it no longer sees what we're talking about. If you were to click on the first error, you would see that we now have A23 minus a reference error. That means that there is no information where it's trying to look. To change this, we will use something called referencing another worksheet. On the budget worksheet, our total was $100, and this was just a value that we put in manually. Everything else was a formula. If we want to keep the same things, as in the value with the formula, we will simply note the name of this worksheet, which is budget, and the cell number, which is C2. When you go back to your names, we will simply say that this is going to be equal to the name of the worksheet with an exclamation point. That means that it is a worksheet name, followed by the cell number, C2. Once I type that in, you can see that it has automatically popped up with the value from that worksheet, $100. It even knows that it's a dollar amount and not just the value of 100. Once I hit enter, I can then go back to fill in the rest of these. It now knows to reference that worksheet with the cell underneath it. Just to confirm that these numbers are correct, I'll go back. And they are as they should be. If you want to make some changes to a worksheet, but you're afraid that you're going to alter it or delete some information, or you simply want a reference to another worksheet just like it, you can make a copy of one. If you go down to the worksheet that you would like to copy, click the arrow next to it. It's pointing down. You can choose Duplicate. And you now have an exact replica of what you have just chosen to copy. The last thing that I'd like to go over are percentages. I'll stick with using my copy of the names worksheet so I can keep everything on the original names intact. I like to keep the starting budget for everybody in the month of January and then increase that by a certain percentage. So that means I will take out all the information from the next month and now I'll enter in some random numbers for a percentage increase for each person. With these numbers now put in place, you'll see that they are still just whole numbers and we need to convert them into a percentage. For each number that you want to change, click and highlight. Then go up to the percent sign and click it. Alternatively, you can click on Format, Number, and Percent. You can also easily change how many decimal places to increase or decrease. You do that by selecting the decrease or increase. One thing I forgot to do is make a new column to show the percentage increase before starting on the next month. But I'll show you how to easily fix this. Click on the letter for your column. Right click and choose Insert One Left. In the row that is frozen, I will type in percent increase. Highlight all the percentages. Right click, cut. Go over to the correct spot, right click, hit paste. Now starting with February, I can create my formula. I also just noticed a mistake whenever I was entering in my percentage increases. I put in whole numbers when the actual math equivalent should be, instead of a 10, it should have been 0.10. So if you are entering in whole numbers and you convert them to a percentage and the decimal point is over 2 places, that could be your problem. So please keep that in mind and I'll correct that now. Now that I have the correct number in there, I will then choose Format as percent, and now the correct values are there. Now let's create the formula to have this increase for the next month. I'll start with cell E2. Remember that a formula always begins with the equal sign. and I want cell C2 times D2, and then add that again to C2. This is still not quite correct. All spreadsheets use the standard mathematical order of operations, or you probably remember them as "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." So what I need to do first is put parentheses around the times of C2 and D2. And then that number will be added to get my result for the increase of January into February now. I can now drag down to get the exact same formula for everybody else for the next month. This also works for a decrease in percentage. Let's assume that there's a worldwide pandemic that happens in the month of March and everybody has a decrease in budget by 20%. So I'll just make a note of 20%. And starting with the month of March, we'll click into this first blank spot, go up to the formula bar, and we will equal E2 times cell A30, and then we will add that back to E2 again. Obviously that's not a decrease, so let me go back and change my percentage to a negative. And as soon as I do that, my number is now reflected to have a 20% decrease. And again, you can do this for everybody underneath. I hope that these tools and tips will help you in the future as they have me over the years. As always, thanks for watching.